Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to keep this like really sweet because there's a lot to be said, and it's not by us. I'm Richard Hannum, founder of Forge Development Partners, here today with my partner Chris Fraley and Gurpreet Chandok, and our investors and our friends and members of the team that made this possible. And the team includes people like Rich Hillis, without whom we could never have gotten this done. I mean, seriously, the planning department has worked overtime to help us pull together and assemble what's necessary. We have Gensler represented with Doug Zucker, and Holly and their team are here with us today and as our architects for Forge projects in general, and Mr. John Kevlin, who guides us through the labyrinth. Our mayor has arrived, along with Mr. Dorsey and Mr. Seymour, so I'm going to be very quick. We announced this project in January on the premise that we had accomplished a lot of what was needed to get here, to be able to revitalize downtown, make a shift, to impact housing. And unfortunately, the rest of the world markets were not with us as quickly. And it's taken us a number of months and reaching the right people with the right incentives. Mr. Glenn Easterbrook is sitting with us representing equity, along with David Young, who's sitting in the middle also representing equity for our projects, both of whom are committed to investing in San Francisco. Breaking this logjam of market to bring people willing to take $100 million risks in San Francisco has taken a great deal of time and effort. And we've been interviewed by lots of people saying, gee, what was it that made it happen? And what made it happen was the demand of our mayor, of her teams, to put together policies that incrementally over this whole time period have had the impact of shifting the momentum. And without that consistent leadership, many things in sequence, this could not happen. So, not to be obvious, that is the nature of time, that it took everything that we did to get here today. That's how time works. But for all of us in this room, we know that this has been a huge effort to create the first one. We now have a pattern language that's available to us that has been led by Judson True through the Department of Building Inspection, through all the other agencies, so that we now have a pathway that we can duplicate. So one of the things that we've been focused on is how do we make this replicable and scalable? Not just we're doing a project. This is the first project. Once we've got this put together now and capitalized, which has been accomplished, others can look at what we're doing, because we can't do it all. As London Breed said, this will happen through the hands of many. And so I don't want to talk any further about just us. Your time is precious to us. So I'd like to introduce you to the Honorable Mayor London Breed, who has made this all possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard, and I'm so glad to be here because I've been talking about this project for a long time now. And more importantly, what I have said to people time and time again, because we know that people were like, downtown, downtown, downtown. And what I've said time and time again, downtown isn't going to be what it was before the pandemic, but it's going to be something better. It's going to be a 24/7 neighborhood. And the way that we accomplish this goal is not just about building new laws, it's about getting rid of old ones. Because before the pandemic, we made it so difficult for anybody to do anything. And the city was mostly focused on, what can you do for me? What can you do for the city? And how much can you give us? And also, we were focused on restrictions. You can't have this kind of space here, you can't do this here, impact fee there, affordable housing fee there, everything that you can think of. And it is no wonder that when you were trying to build housing in San Francisco, it can cost anywhere between $800 and $1.2 million a unit, and that's for affordable housing. So if we want to be serious about housing production, if we want to be serious about making downtown a 24/7 neighborhood where you work, where you live, where you play, and meeting the goals we have in my 30 by 30 plan to bring 30,000 new residents and students to the downtown by 2030, then we got to stop saying no, and we got to get to yes. Today represents getting to yes, and how it's never just one thing, as Richard said. It is so many pieces to the puzzle that make something like this possible. And part of that starts with rezoning the entire downtown, which takes off about 2 to 3 years of a process to rezone a building like this, saving time and saving money. What is also very helpful is waiving the transfer tax when you do convert, creating another financial piece to the puzzle. What also helps is reducing impact and inclusionary housing fees, because what good does it do us as a city if it doesn't happen anyway? So how do we remove those barriers? And then just recently, I was with the governor about last week, or I don't know, every day feels like Monday, but I was just recently with the governor, and he signed a number of legislative pieces regarding housing, including a new financing tool for the downtown San Francisco, one that will allow us to do somewhat like a redevelopment agency tax increment type system and get that money on the front end. And what I'm so excited about is all these little things add up to one big thing, a new opportunity for 124 new units in a space that could use it, creating an opportunity in a space that is central to downtown, bringing people to this new downtown neighborhood. That's how we make magic happen. That's how we get to yes, and that's how we deconstruct city bureaucracy. And look, if I had my way, I'd take the charter and all this stuff, put it in ChatGPT, type up a few things, and spit it out and start from scratch. And so what will happen, and here's the big difference, because the arguments sometimes are, well, you're giving away this and you're giving away that. Well, if nothing is happening, what are we getting? And more importantly, what do you think we're going to get in the future? What kind of investment will that be in San Francisco? That investment of tax revenue, that investment of the people who live here, who spend money in our city, that investment of a thriving downtown center, which is what we need to make this downtown neighborhood. So I am so excited because this is one of the first, but it won't be the last. We have the Warfield also doing something very similar. We have the old I-Magnin building, but they had to go through the 2 to 3 year process to even get started. We have other buildings that we have identified, and we want to make it easier to get to this point. And more importantly, we want to make it easier to do more in these places downtown rather than the limitations that have always stopped us from moving forward. We even introduced legislation, so now work spaces could be on the bottom floor. YesSF just opened a new workspace next to a coffee shop, a retail space next to a workspace. Can you believe that was not possible? And this is where we are now with San Francisco. This is where we have to be. If we're going to bring more residents to the downtown, we have to convert to more housing. If we're going to build new housing units down here, we have to continue to get to yes. And again, now with SB 423, and I see our YIMBY folks in the audience, there won't be the obstruction that used to exist that makes it impossible if we are doing what is in the laws to do, the same height, same, all the things you guys as developers know you are required to do, the obstruction is removed. This is the work that we have been doing to get to yes. And now we get to experience what it looks like. And this is why this is probably one of the most exciting projects that we will see. And I'm looking forward to that. And let me just make sure that I got all my stuff. I just want to thank you again, Richard from Forge Development, and for your work and your commitment, and honestly, betting on this city. Because people have been talking a lot of mess about San Francisco and saying a lot of bad things. And it's almost like I want to keep a little secret, because you see what's going on outside. It's thriving. The weather's beautiful. The restaurants this weekend were out of control. Cambodia Day was insane in Union Square. I mean, this city is hopping, and downtown is becoming something that it has never been. Fun. People are having a good time with Bhangra and Beats, Cambodia Day, Oktoberfest, and, you know, supervisors sitting here like, yes, I'm the beneficiary of all of this. Because you are. It's becoming a real neighborhood, and we are making that happen. And what we have told people time and time again is never, ever, ever bet against San Francisco. So I want to thank you all so much for coming, and at this time, I want to welcome to the stage the supervisor who is fortunate enough to represent some of this district down here, Supervisor Matt Dorsey.
Thank you so much, Mayor. You know, it is appropriate that we're celebrating this at this building, because more than a century ago, this was the building that symbolized San Francisco's comeback after the 1906 earthquake, and it is incredibly important to, I think, to our history. This is a building that symbolizes another kind of comeback in reinventing what downtown can be as a residential space. It is such an honor to represent this district, and part of what I love about this neighborhood is that I work out, or actually I pay a gym membership because I don't have time to at the gym next door. So for more than 20 years, this has been my stomping ground, as we've talked about. So I've seen a lot of changes in this neighborhood, but Mayor Breed is right. There's things that are happening in downtown, especially in District 6, but I think more and more we have to make sure that our neighbor to the north in District 3 gets some of the love too, for some of the opportunities that presented by office to residential conversions. So I am just so grateful to be a part of this. I want to express my gratitude to Mayor Breed, because it's easy to talk about the big ideas. It's a lot harder to understand all the multitude of ways that there have to be little adjustments here and things there and trade-offs here to make these things pencil out. This isn't easy. And what I have really enjoyed in my 2 years on the Board of Supervisors, being a partner with Mayor Breed and her team, as we're going through a difficult time in real estate with interest rates and other factors, many of them beyond our control. But it's important that what is in our control, Mayor Breed and her team are working on. And the successes that we're having owe a lot to her. So I want to say my gratitude to Mayor Breed for her leadership on this. And I also want to just say thank you to Richard and also to Forge Development Partners, all your investors, Gensler, and everybody else, because we policymakers can make the adjustments that need to be made. But at the end of the day, this is your risk too. And I think it is something that we appreciate, and I will tell you this, I will never forget when everybody's looking back on this saying, that was such a smart thing. I'm going to be reminding people, the people who bet on San Francisco. That is something that means a lot to me. I know it means a lot to Mayor Breed. And this is something that we all have an investment in getting this right, because what happens here, the success of this, is something that we need to replicate all over this city. It's going to benefit what we need to be doing to have affordable housing and be a more inclusive and equitable and affordable city, but it also is a way that we can preserve the beauty of this city as well. So with that, I just want to express my gratitude to all of you for inviting me to be a part of it. I followed one mayor, and now I'm going to introduce another. You may be aware that there is a book that came out this month about the mayor of the Tenderloin, and somebody who has meant a lot to me, and actually when I was considering whether I was even going to ask for this job. I had a long heart-to-heart talk with some people, and one of them was Del Seymour. And I really appreciated that, and I have often said that if there ever comes a day that I regret the decision to become a supervisor, I'm going to blame Del Seymour for that. So please welcome the mayor of the Tenderloin, Del Seymour.
You know, this is such an important, now that I look at all these people, now it's harder to do. It's difficult to be up here in front of all these people, especially sitting in the front row. The last time I was in front row, I was in court and it did not go well. So I'm able to go home today, Madam Mayor. I look at the other two people in the front row. You may call her Mayor Breed. I call her my niece from the Tenderloin, from the Fillmore. I look at Supervisor Dorsey. You may call him Supervisor Dorsey. I'll call him my recovery partner. So I'm just so proud to be here today. You know, people ask me, how do you solve homelessness? Mayor Breed appointed me to her homeless board 10 years ago. And I've worked hard, I chair the board now, hard on trying to figure out how do we solve homelessness. I could go on for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, but you know, I can do it in one word: housing. So simple, housing, something that you do well. I met Richard years ago when he came with some ridiculous ideas to provide dignified housing on two of our most challenging blocks in the Tenderloin. I've been in the Tenderloin 38 years, so I can tell what blocks are challenging. And came up with the idea. I said, what's wrong with this guy? And he came up with the idea that brought dignity to the Tenderloin with two wonderful buildings on some of our most challenging blocks. Still are challenging, but not as challenging because of his investment. We're talking today about investment. And there are a lot of people, thank God, in this room that are here today because of your desire to invest in the Tenderloin. I'm not in the Tenderloin right now, but I'm in my suburbs. As mayor of the Tenderloin, I'm in the suburbs right now of the Tenderloin. So I can talk. But it's about investment. It's about believing in people, about believing in yourselves. In fact, after he built those two buildings, I actually invested in one of them to get space for one of my projects. Now, when I go in my space in one of his buildings, instead of greeting the front door clerk as, hey, what's up, dude? Good morning, Mr. Seymour. Good morning, good afternoon, Mr. Seymour. Are you okay? Do you need anything? In the heart of the Tenderloin. That's probably the mayor, but you're here, so you're not called. So the fact that you brought dignity into my neighborhood, that's one of the things we lack drastically, is dignity. You believed in us. You put your investment, and there are other investors here today that put you guys put your mind and your body and your money into a neighborhood that no one wanted to invest in. We get talked about all around the world unbelievably, and no one knows who we are and what we can do, what potential we have. With your investment brings potential. You may not get your investment back next month or next year, but in a few years you will see that you have done the right thing. And Richard, I really want to thank you. I live there. I love the neighborhood. You brought over 100 units into the Tenderloin that make a difference. And I see my people here from Code Tenderloin. They're my people from Code Tenderloin who we really believe in the Tenderloin, and we're going to have a lot of our people moving in there. We're bringing other clients in because the Mayor's Office of Housing has made some opportunity gateway for us to get in there. And that's what it's about. That's what it's about for us to live. See, the media tells all kind of BS about the Tenderloin. We got so many people that will get up every morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, and go to work every day and never get recognized. We got our seniors, never get recognized. But because of building and investment and acknowledgement, now we are being recognized as just a typical community in San Francisco. A building like this right here is going to be so amazing in my Tenderloin suburbs. I just can't wait for it to be open. So Richard, Thank you. Mayor Breed, you know I love you. Thank you. Matt Dorsey, thank you so much. And investors, everyone, investors, please, I don't want to embarrass you, but I am. I don't care about embarrassing nobody. Raise your hands. Raise your hand. And Richard Hollis from the Department of Planning, thanks for doing what you do, man. And you know, I work with you daily. Thanks for doing what you do. And everyone else that's here today, thank you. God bless.
Thank you, Del. That was awesome. To everybody, I want to thank you for being here. And please hang out, say hello to each other. There's a lot of information about what we're doing on the walls. When we said that it took a lot of different bits and pieces to make things happen, there's a component to this that I'd like to go back in time on, because policy builds over time. One of our great leaders here in San Francisco, George Schultz, used to tell us that if you create right policy, the effect isn't today. The effect takes time to mature. So one of the great policies of London Breed has been a policy of sustainability. And you'll notice on the walls a commitment for this project to be a leader in zero net carbon, zero net energy development. It's unique in the city. And the components of uniqueness also come down to other policies that have to do with Cordia and bringing megawatts of energy off Hetch Hetchy into San Francisco, which will make every single building that is tied to the Concordia grid a green building. Instantly. One move. Combine that with what PG&E has done with us, and that we were successful at 361 Turk, now 468, soon to be 450, and this project at 785, they've agreed to create a system that is one of the reasons the economics of this project are even plausible. So from sources you didn't think that you might get support because of policies that give them the opportunity to play, now we have engagement and we have a sustainable future for a revitalized downtown that's a 24/7 lifestyle that we have needed for decades. And so thank you, Mayor Breed, Mr. Dorsey, Del, and everyone else for being here today. I want to applaud all of you, our partners, our investors, and our friends for being here. Thank you all. Thank you all. Take care. Refreshments are here, something to eat, and thanks very much.